Hey, everybody, it's Greg Harrelson here. And of course, with my co host, Abe Safa. And we are with you every week on the Real Geeks in the Real Geeks Mastermind Group, talking to you about strategies that we may be using or just, coaching topics that we might be sharing with our agents and hope that we can play a little bit of role in the growth of your business. So thank you for those that listen consistently. Thank you for that. And stay tuned for the future conversations. So Abe, thank you for being here with me.
My pleasure, Greg.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about some follow-up strategies for consistent business, I guess, to build a consistent business. And I think before we jump into it, consistent business, like a lot of people, Abe, and I think that you've seen this in the agents that we coach, or whether they're in our office or in other areas. So many agents, their business seems like it's on a roller coaster. They all of a sudden they have these amazing highs, where it's like, oh my gosh, business is so great. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They have just such, what I would say, just great success. And then all of a sudden, a lot of times they get overwhelmed and they have to kind of like start taking care of all that business. And then they take their foot off the gas. And then all of a sudden their momentum dies out and they find themselves at the bottom of that roller coaster, which is with no business. And then at that point, they're discouraged and they have to, oh my gosh, I need to do these activities so I can build my business back up. And then all of a sudden it starts click, 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 climbing up to the top again. And they get to the top. Oh my gosh, I've got so much business. I need to process this paperwork, take their foot off the gas, and they go down the roller coaster. I think all of us would love to have a more consistent business. Thoughts on that, Abe, or anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's like feast or famine, right? So real estate agents remind me, most real estate agents that go through this, because this is one of the biggest complaints we get from agents is like, how do I keep my consistent business? I'll close 3 deals in 1 month and then nothing for 3 weeks. So to me, it's like they're like a bad taxi driver. You ever been in the back of the cab and the guy's like gas and then brake, gas and then brake. It's like it'll turn your stomach.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about, what you can do to build that consistent business.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it.
Yeah. So, so obviously, a lot of agents out there have the ups and downs. And like you said, Greg, they'll get busy. And then they're all moving forward. All of a sudden they'll stop doing the things that got them busy.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like the lead gen, right? They're talking to clients, they're going on appointments, the showing of properties. If you're a buyer's agent, those are the things that get the momentum going. And a lot of times what I see is when agents get the momentum going, they start to make up excuses or reasons to stop doing the things that got the momentum going. Mm-hmm. Right. No, I can't call anybody today because I've got to go to this closing. I've got to go to this inspection. I've got this to do, and I've got to prepare for this appointment. So the things start to come up at that point. And that's what starts to sidetrack the momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why do you think that happens?
Well, a couple of things. I think the first reason is tendency to get flustered. So we get busy and we want to feel like, we like to feel like we're busy, right? So all of a sudden we get away from the things that have worked. And then there's also creative avoidance. Right. There's also the idea of the fascination with being busy. So we want to do more things. And a lot of times, being just, what's the expression? Being busy is not the same as being productive.
Yeah.
Right. So you gotta differentiate between what you call busy and what's actually productive.
Yeah. Before we get into it, because I think we're going to give a list of some strategies today, maybe 6 or 7. And before we get into that, I'll kind of add on a little bit more to that is, as I was talking to the agents today in the company in a coaching call, I was talking about distraction, noise. And it's fascinating to see, how many agents become coaches and how many coaches one year their message is this, and then the next year their message is that. And there's always the new lead source. There's always the new technology, and a lot of that right there is I think is also a source of distraction, which leads to inconsistency. Because people are bouncing around. It's like, okay, is it going to be Chat GPT now? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And people are just they'll abandon their proven methods, their proven approach to getting business. They'll abandon that so easily to go and execute on something brand new. And what I have found through the years is that real top producers, people that are building the production or the wealth that they want to build and enjoy in order to enjoy the life that they want to live. In other words, they have this image, they have this perception of the life they want to live, and then they go and build their business to support it financially. The people that seem to be achieving this, what's interesting about them, they don't experience a lot of change in their methodologies. They're not abandoning something that's working in order to test something else. They may be testing something else, but they don't test something else and abandon the thing that actually works, their core foundational systems or processes. And follow-up is a core component to anybody's growth. But what I'll see inconsistent in follow-up strategies. And that leads to inconsistency in conversion through their follow-up, which trickles down to production or profitability, whichever one you want to measure. So I just thought I would throw that out there. I said this, and I mean it. And it is a question. This is a question for everybody. Is your business boring enough for you to create the wealth that you desire? Because if your business is boring, you're probably doing something right consistently to create wealth and production for yourself. If your business is really exciting because there's always something new, you're probably not building wealth or large enough production for it to actually make a difference in your life. And so the agents that I know across the country over the 20 plus 30, almost 30 years I've been in this business, the ones that I know do the most production are the ones that don't actually post about it on social media. And people were asking me, why do you think that is? Because what they would post wouldn't go viral. It's too boring. You wouldn't share their post. They would say, oh, just show up early in the morning, get to the office early, do lead generation, do your follow-up, go on your appointments, then go home. Like, that's not a shareable post. The shareable post has to be, I just found this new lead source and it is crushing it. I've got 127% rate of return on this source. They've been using it for 30 days. You can't even track a rate of return in 30 days. But that one gets shared. Oh, and then they say, interested, tell me more. And then they say, I'll direct message you. You seen those posts? Those go viral. The boring doesn't. Okay. I'll get off that. All right, let's go. Whatever. We're at follow-up strategy.
That's a great point. Okay. Or the post where, I took 3 listens this month without making a single call.
Yes. Okay. And then I go and have my friend go into their MLS and pull the numbers. And that was their team, number one, that actually assisted in those 3. And they're trending down over the last 12 months. I mean, what does that tell us? All right, but let's get off of that. Let's get into some strategies.
Yeah. So one of the first pitfalls, Greg, is too many agents chase now business.
Yes.
And they're not thinking long term.
Okay.
You need to treat your business over the next, as if it's a 5, 10, 15-year business, and you need to have a pipeline. Okay. You just don't need to have a stack of hot leads. You need to have hot leads. You need to have warm leads. You need to have cold leads. You need to have a whole pipeline of leads.
Yes.
And so the way to start off is you've got to look at your business as a pipeline. You got to look at your database as a pipeline. And then you have to segment your database. I've said that 1,000 times. You've said it 1,000,000 times. You have to know who in your database is doing what and when. right? Who's at the bottom of the funnel? Who's at the top of the funnel? Who's somewhere in the middle? Who needs a little bit of a nudge? Like, you have to know these things, right? And it doesn't get much easier than what Real Geeks did for you. The system's already there for you. Use the urgencies of fire, hot, warm, and nurture, right?
Yeah.
That's the 4 segments right there, right?
And
So
don't
you
even
have
worry about changing them. Like, just use the ones that Real Geek is like. It's more complicated to figure out, well, what other tags should I have? Well, don't resist creating new tags until you've used the existing tags. Like, just use the ones that are built in, because this whole thing about those tags, Abe, and then if you wanted to get advanced and do the advanced search filters, it helps you do exactly what you just said, is identify the people who you need to spend more time with, or identify the people who you need to nurture. Identify the people who you need to call. Identify the people that you need to not call. Just maybe don't do anything with them for a while, you know? So the tagging is the lead identification system within Real Geeks, and it's got to be used. It's definitely a strategy that'll help you be more consistent.
Yeah, so you have to start there. And if you did just that by itself, I mean, that's 75% of the battle.
Yeah.
Right. At least you know who's where, and then you know when to contact people.
Yeah. In the old days when I was working with Mike Ferry, one of the things that, gosh, I mean, literally, we were all paper, right? You'd have a lead, and it would be a piece of paper, and another lead would be another piece of paper. And so imagine all the leads just being in stacks of paper. Well, what I remember Mike coaching this so many times, and he says, you know, you need to identify what your definition of a lead is. And what his definition at that time was somebody who's going to do business with you in the next 7 days. And some people would say, oh my gosh, well, I don't have that many leads. Well, then prospect. And then you'll find people through making contacts that will actually want to do business in the next 7 days. And he says, if you don't have a definition of a lead, like whether yours is 7 days or 30 days, whatever it is, then what ends up happening, if you don't have it defined, you'll accumulate too many leads, and the good leads will get lost in the pile of all the leads. What he was talking about is that was an identification problem. Well, with Real Geeks and the CRM, they solve our identification problem through their technology. One of them's tagging, advanced search filters is the other.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, I used to have the folders as well. I'd have the folders by month inside a file cabinet. I'd have my A folder, my B folder, all that stuff. But it was all paper.
Yeah.
So Albert Sanchez says, thanks for reminding me it's okay to be bored.
Yeah.
Albert, we're bored every single day. And the days I'm not bored, I look at the end of the day and I didn't produce anything.
Yeah. I said this on the coaching call today. Today I was really on this topic for some reason. And I said, you know, a lot of people have accused me, you know, of being very boring in the way that I conduct my business. And what I say back to that is but I seem to enjoy a lot of excitement in my life. You know, I decide, oh, let me go tell my parents happy birthday. I get in a plane and I go tell my parents happy birthday this weekend. And then I catch in a day of fly fishing at the same time. Is that boring? That's not boring. But what puts me in a position to make a decision this afternoon to go anywhere I want around this country tonight? The thing that puts me in a position to have that much variety and excitement is actually I'm bored. So I chose to be boring in my business so I can enjoy the excitement in my life. A lot of people are choosing excitement in their business, and they're never and they live boring lives because they don't have the income or the savings that allow them to live out their dreams. Very important. Totally different discussion than follow-up strategies. So I'll try to stay focused on it.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, be boring in your business and exciting in your life.
Yeah.
One last thing on the first thing about the segment thing is you've got to ask the right questions. So you constantly have to move people around because they don't just stay in that pipeline in that one spot forever. They could be a lead now, and then their life changes, and now they're all of a sudden a C lead, right? Or they could be a C lead and all of a sudden they got motivated, they got a divorce or whatever it may be. Now they're motivated to sell, they become an A lead. So you have to keep digging in every conversation, every follow-up call, and see where they are in the pipeline.
Yeah. All right. So going to the next one on follow-up strategies, it's scheduled time. You've got to have, you have to have a time in your schedule that you're going to focus on your hot leads. Okay. And so if you're going to schedule follow-up, if let's just say that you don't currently schedule follow-up, and schedule means it's actually in your schedule. Okay. And nothing else can interrupt it. You need to schedule a specific time every day to follow up with your hot leads. Maybe it's not follow up with all of your leads, but you have to designate some sort of definition of what a hot lead is. And then in my world, and from a coaching standpoint, I would coach you this. If it's a hot lead, then it must be touched every day. Now, some of you would say, yeah, but these people I touched yesterday, I don't need to touch them tomorrow. Well, then that's not how I would define them as a hot lead. I define them as a great lead. I wouldn't define them as a hot lead. A hot lead is somebody that has to be touched every day. I must be willing to call them, email them, text them, do something, meet with them on a daily basis. That'd be my hot lead. Now, some of you may say again, well, I don't have any of those. Well, go call everybody in your database because there is a hot lead in your database. They may just not be at the forefront of your mind right now. So once I define my hot lead as somebody that I'm willing to touch on a daily basis, now that I've created, that my definition is that defined, is that pinpointed on that lead, then I better have a schedule to make sure that I complete that activity. Because if I don't have that on schedule, if it's not on your schedule, it probably won't exist. And if it doesn't exist, then and those people are that hot, they're going to end up buying a property from a different agent. So you've got to make sure that you have follow-up scheduled when it comes to your hot leads.
Yep. Next one is you got to call with intention, right? You can't call every single time and ask them if they want to sell or ask them if they're ready to buy. You got to bring value to a conversation. Gary V book, a jab, jab, right hook, or what's it called?
Jab, 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 right hook.
Jab, 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 right hook. So three things of value before you ask for one thing in return. Mm-hmm. So have that formula, 3-to-1 formula of give, give, give before you ask. So call with value. And this is just to your general database, right? If you got a hot lead, you got to go in for the close. If it's a hot lead and you've only got a few of them, you got to go in for the close. But when you call in the rest of your database to see where they are and in the process, then you got to bring value to every single conversation. You can't have that commission breath on every single call.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're thinking about, well, what can I give? It's more simple than a lot of times we make it. You could just give them information like, hey, Abe, I wanted to touch base with you, just check in with you, see if there's anything that I could do for you. But I wanted to mention that another property, remember that property we looked at the other day? That one actually already sold, and two more went under contract. So those properties are very popular right now. So it's good to know that we're actually looking at the right properties. It's just, you could just give them some bit of information versus, hey, by the whole conversation, hey, I just wanted to touch base. Are you ready to buy? You ready to go look at property? That's the ask, which you have to ask, but the ask must follow the gives. And if you do that, you'll see people will reciprocate and say yes more. If you give to them, they'll give to you. That's how this works. So don't always, sometimes we come across sounding too salesy, and that's what we want to prevent. Let's sound a little bit more serving versus salesy. Okay, another one. Know when to fold them, right? Which is don't hang on when their motivation is gone. So, look, we've always said we never delete a lead. Okay? But you do have to manage your time. And if somebody is not motivated, then you probably don't need to call them every week. Now, if somebody's not motivated, maybe they're in the dreaming phase, they're not even in the buying phase right now, you don't need to call them every single week. and then be discouraged because they're not picking up the phone or they're saying, no, we're not doing anything. Like once you know their motivation is not there, then just put them on a different follow-up schedule. Put them in your database, tag them a certain way, reach out to them through a workflow, say every month or every 2 months, put them on some sort of frequency, but it doesn't have to be like a very like often, I should say. So you got to know when to kind of like, who do you need to spend your time with and who do you not want to spend your time with or as much time? What I like to do is use Real Geeks as the gauge for that. The people who are actively searching, favoriting, those are the people that I don't want to actually give up on yet. I want to call them, follow up with them.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that is we're not saying get rid of them, delete them. We're just saying stop lying to yourself. Yeah. If you keep your hope, Greg, you always say we don't feed off of hopium.
Smoking hopium.
Smoking hopium. If you keep thinking that one day they're going to turn around and buy or sell when they keep telling you over and over that they're not, stop lying to yourself. Just move them, get them out of your A folder, get them out of your B folder, and move them over to just general database at that point.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is patience. Right. So this is a tough one for a lot of agents to get because I see a lot of agents get bent out of shape. Like if someone changes their mind about selling or buying, look, things happen. Yeah. You got to be patient. And if someone says, I need more time, it's okay. It's okay to be patient. You have to work on their timeline, not your timeline. You don't have a choice, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be them that make the decision when they're ready. Right. So you've got to be really okay with being okay that they're not ready, and just take your time, work with them. And I find that the more that you generate, the more people you have that you work with on a regular basis, the easier it is to be patient. Mm-hmm. When you're inconsistent, you're generating and you're desperate, you only have a couple of leads, it's tough to be patient at that point. But if you show up every single day and you're bored and you're producing and you're generating every single day, then you have that luxury to be patient, right? If you generate, you don't have to tolerate. Mm-hmm. Right, so be patient with people, go off of their time, keep giving value, and then when they're ready, you'll be the one that they go with.
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing like that we all have more buyers than we can handle already in our database. Mm-hmm. I promise you, you have more buyers than you can handle already in your database. They're just lost in the mix of so many. They're lost in the crowd. It's like we've got this big old crowd in our database and there's a few gold nuggets in there, but we can't see the gold nuggets because there's so many people in there. The next one is we're talking about like if you don't have enough hot leads, go generate and get some more. But what if you have a lot of hot leads? Okay, there's two ways that you can do this. If you feel like I've got so many people, well, number one, change your definition of a hot lead. That will narrow the number down. Okay, now the reason why I would say narrow the number down is because like you need to determine how many hot leads can you actually work really well and get maximum conversion. And what is that number of hot leads that somebody has that becomes too many and it seems like we're now fumbling, dropping the ball. So I've coached many agents that said, okay, you can only have 10 hot leads. Now that doesn't mean that the leads that are like that are great, that you neglect them, but the hot leads it's the people that you got to touch every day. And what I say is just like pick your top 10 right now. Today, pick your top 10 before you go home. And then tomorrow, what I want you to do, tomorrow morning, I want you to pick your top 10 again. Now, if you get a lead between today and the end of the day, you have to determine, is that next lead better than one of your top 10? If it's better than one of the people that you labeled in your top 10, then one of those top 10, number 10 needs to move out and you need to put that one in. Now you got a new top 10. And if every day you wake up and you say, I'm going to write my new top 10 list, if every day you do that, then what's going to happen? Your top 10 list gets better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're writing a contract every single week just out of your top 10 leads. It's a simple strategy.
This kind of piggybacks off of number 5, I think. Number 4, know when to fold them. Right.
Yes.
So if you
Yeah.
don't have 10 hot leads that you can go to right now, you're not generating enough.
Okay.
Okay. If you have more than 10 hot leads right now, then your criteria is to lose.
That's
Okay.
great. That's
So
great.
you have to keep that list as short as possible. Okay. I think 10 is a great number, right? Because if you start growing that list more than 10, what's going to happen is the 3 or 4 that are really, really hot leads in there, they're going to fall through the cracks because you can't keep up with them.
Yes.
Right. So try to that's great advice. Every single day, rewrite your top 10.
Yeah.
Like if we told you, look, go out today and take your 10 best leads and call them, who would they be? They've got to be identified at all times. You know exactly who they are.
Yeah. And your goal every day should be to work your database and find somebody to replace one of those in your top 10.
Right.
See, what we're doing is we're constantly top loading, right? And we're just like improving the quality of the top 10. You do this for a month, like 30 straight days. You do this for a month. I promise you, your top 10 list will convert at a higher rate than it's ever converted before.
There was a company out there, the name that keeps coming to my mind is GE, maybe. Wasn't it GE at one point that they would replace the bottom 10% of their workforce every year, or somebody was doing it? Yeah. Take the bottom 10% and replace them every year.
It was Jack Welch.
Yeah.
That's right, with GE. That's right.
All right. So the last one is important. You got to keep moving the ball forward. It goes back to the patience. You got to keep moving the ball forward on their timeline. So don't just end the conversation with, give me a call next week or next month. Okay. Know why they're waiting till next week. Know why they're waiting till next month. What exactly they're waiting to happen. You want to be clear on where they are every single time you get off the phone. So a couple of things you want to know before you hang up the phone. Okay. Why are we waiting? How long are we waiting? Okay. And then set a time to call them. So if they just said, call me next week, that doesn't mean anything. There's no commitment from them. So if Greg says, call me next week, I'm going to say, Greg, okay, Greg, I'll give you a call. Today's Tuesday. Would next Tuesday work? Yes. Do you prefer I call you in the morning, afternoon? Afternoon. Okay, great. I'll call you at 4:00. Now, by him saying, okay, he's giving me some sort of commitment. Now, when I call Greg next Tuesday at 4:00, he's more likely to pick up than if he just says, call me next week. And I say, okay, there's no skin in the game for Greg. So keep moving the ball forward. Ask the right questions. Know exactly what you're waiting for. And you've got it. It's a slow and steady game. Greg said it in the first couple of sentences. You gotta feel like, man, this is kind of boring. Yeah. And you got to do this every single day.
Yeah. All right, Abe. So just again, I'm gonna ask everybody to ask yourself a question: is your business boring enough for you to create the wealth and income that you need in order to experience what you want in your life? The boring is consistent. It's not really the activity that's boring. It's consistently doing the same thing on a daily basis becomes boring. But consistently doing the same things that we discussed today will actually help you create wealth in the area of your production. So we should all be striving for boredom in our business so we can gain excitement in our lives. Abe, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see everybody next week.
Enjoy,
and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.